November 23, 1942. Meet 24-year-old Poon Lim, steward on the British merchant ship SS Ben Lomond, cruising toward New York. Just a regular day at the office, until two massive torpedoes rip the ship apart without even a heads up. Poon Lim gets yeeted into the ocean. Lungs burning, he surfaces into the dark water, realizing he's completely alone. Suddenly, the German U-boat that just ruined his day pops up. Poon waves frantically, screaming for help. The Germans look at him, point, and laugh their asses off. They wave bye-bye, dive back down, and leave him to die. Nazi humor really hits different. After 2 hours freezing in the water, he finds a life raft with some food, water, and flares. Salvation, maybe? Looking out, he spots another raft with survivors waving at him. But with no oars, the two rafts just awkwardly drift apart until they vanish. Food runs out. Poon makes a survival gigabrain move. He uses his very last hardtack biscuit not to eat, but as bait. He rips a spring from a flashlight to make a tiny hook, unravels hemp rope for fishing line. Surprisingly, fish like biscuits more than sailors do. Need a bigger rod? He yanks a nail out of the raft, bends it, and uses the small fish as bait. Fresh water runs dry. He rigs a canvas tarp to catch rainwater. When a seagull swoops down, he just chokeslams it. No fire. He slices the meat, dips it in seawater, and sunbakes it into avian beef jerky. The stomach doesn't complain. But then, the rain stops. Delirious from thirst, skin burned to a crisp. Encircling the raft, a squad of sharks just waiting for the buffet to open. Facing death, Poon uses the dead seagull to hook a literal shark. Using whatever crumbling strength he has left, he hauls the monster onto the raft, slices it open, and chugs the hot blood straight from its liver like a cursed juice box. Desperation is always the boldest seasoning. One day, a freighter shows up. He screams in English. They look at him and just leave. Why? Because they thought he was a Japanese soldier. Just another day of casual 1940 seconds racism. Later, a Oz Navy patrol plane spots him. They drop a marker boy to come back and rescue him. But boom, a massive storm hits. Washes away the boy, the raft, and his hopes right back into the ocean. You've got to be kidding me. He loses all sense of time. April 5th, 1943. 4 months since the shipwreck, a Brazilian fishing boat scoops him up just 9 miles from the coast. Down 20 pounds of meat, he's literally built like a skeleton. He finds out he's the sole survivor. 133 days adrift, a literal world record. When told about this achievement, he just replied, "I hope no one is ever fool enough to break that record." August 1823, along the Grand River, South Dakota. This place is basically a death trap deep in Arikara warrior territory. But veteran fur trapper Hugh isn't about to die from a poisoned arrow. Oh no, he's busy handing his life over to a half-ton mama grizzly bear. Accidentally stepping into a patch of grass where her cubs are playing, Hugh doesn't even get a second to draw his gun. Mama bear pounces. The sound of claws shredding flesh and rib cartilage is bone-chillingly crunchy. She chews up his leg, slaps his throat wide open, and leaves a gaping crater on his back with his white ribs hanging out. His buddies run over and gun the monster down. And then they look at Hugh, a bloody, mangled mess, crushed like a pretzel run over by a stagecoach. They carry his barely breathing body on a makeshift stretcher for 2 agonizing days. Slow, heavy, and super dangerous. Terrified of the dark and the locals, the captain does some cold, hard math, $80, $40 for each guy willing to stay behind. Watch this trapper breathe his last and give him a proper burial. An old-timer named John Fitzgerald and a fresh-faced kid named Jim Bridger nod. Making money off a corpse is always the easiest gig. But 5 days pass. Hugh with his shredded throat just keeps grunting, clinging to life, and stubbornly refusing the Grim Reaper's invitation. Fitzgerald and Bridger start to panic. What if the natives show up? They look at each other and make a ruthlessly bone-chilling decision. They strip him of his rifle, his knife, his flint, and even rob his food rations. And they just ditch him alone in the deep woods, waiting for a rotting corpse to become wolf snacks. But Hugh wakes up, alone, crippled, freezing. 0 weapons to defend himself. Nobody survives that. He should have just closed his eyes and prayed. But nope, a primal, dark, and blazing fuel ignites in his veins, pure unadulterated hatred. The greatest motivation in human history isn't love, it's the burning desire to see your enemies bleed. Hugh snaps his shattered leg back into place, starts crawling on his belly, kicking off a delusional 2-mile crawl toward Fort Kiowa, eating bitter roots, chewing dry bark, swallowing random bugs whole. Those hand-sized craters on his back quickly turn into a cozy maternity ward for blowflies. Thousands of pale maggots hatch, squirming around, digging in and eating all his rotting flesh. Sounds puke-inducing? Oh, definitely. But these maggots accidentally became the best antibacterial doctors of the 19th century, cleaning out the necrosis and saving him from blood poisoning. Starving to the point of throwing up stomach acid, Hugh spots a pack of wolves tearing apart a bison calf carcass. With terrifying patience, he waits for the wolves to get full and leave. Then, the two-legged monster named Hugh Glass crawls over and growls to claim the leftovers. He literally camps inside the dead calf, ripping off bloody chunks of raw meat and chewing aggressively until his flat stomach bulges back out. October of that year, a skeletal ghost drags itself through the gates of Fort Kiowa. By some wild, feral miracle, he lived. The hunt begins. New Year's Eve, 1823. Fort Henry. Trappers are raising their glasses when they suddenly bug their eyes out and sweat cold bullets, seeing a literal corpse walk right up to the fireplace. Hugh patiently watches them panic, then coldly hisses through his teeth, "Where are Fitzgerald and Bridger?" The kid, Bridger, falls to his knees, shaking and begging for mercy. Seeing the cowardice of youth, Hugh realizes the real mastermind was that old fox, Fitzgerald. He spares the kid. For the next 6 agonizing months, he wanders from fort to fort, hunting his enemy like a bloodthirsty hound. June 1824, Fort Atkinson. Hugh finally corners Fitzgerald, draws his gun, ready for his bloody finale. But wait, a US Army officer blocks the barrel. Plot twist, Fitzgerald joined the army. He's as government property now, and shooting him means the gallows. The officer listens to Hugh's tragic tale, sheds a sympathetic tear, then casually hands back his stolen rifle and $300 for emotional damage. He crawled 200 miles, ate raw meat, and became a literal maggot hotel, all for a boring government refund. Years later, Hugh went back to trapping and actually got killed. He really should have used that $300 to retire. 1914. Meet Ernest Shackleton, a wildly ambitious guy hitting his big for zero. Still super salty about watching his rival, Roald Amundsen, snatch the title of first dude to plant a flag at the South Pole. Shackleton decides to make an even more arrogant bet, becoming the first guy to literally walk across the entire frozen continent. The proud ship HMS Endurance sails into the Weddell Sea, packing 27 men and dozens of sled dogs. But Mother Nature couldn't care less about human ego. The climate that year pulls a massive UNO reverse card. The sea ice freezes up way earlier than expected. Millions of tons of ice put the ship in a giant chokehold. The legendary ship gets stuck dead in its tracks, turning into a helpless bath toy trapped in the ocean's icy jaws. 8 months of winter, plunged into absolute darkness and creepy silence. Shackleton constantly throws sing-alongs, plays, and ice soccer games to keep the crew from losing their minds. But at night, in his secret diary, he's writing down pure, unadulterated panic, realizing death is waiting to swallow them all whole. September of the next year, the light returns. The ice shows signs of melting. The whole crew cheers, but they celebrated way too early. The ice didn't melt to free the ship. Instead, giant ice blocks start moving, shoving and crushing together. The sound of solid ironwood splintering under thousands of tons of pressure sounds like a monster being strangled to death. Water violently floods the lower decks. By October, Shackleton gives the order to abandon ship. 27 dudes stand shivering on a drifting ice floe, helplessly watching the mighty Endurance buckle, snap in half, and sink forever into the pitch-black abyss. Food runs out fast. Those loyal sled dogs, their only friends in this frozen hell, are dragged behind the ice chunks one by one, shot in the head, and turned into bloody BBQs to keep the crew from starving. The harsh truth of Antarctica, compassion has zero nutritional value. The night of April 8th, the giant ice floe under their feet suddenly cracks right down the middle, slicing straight through their camp. No time to be scared. They yeet 3 tiny lifeboats, literally the size of a nostril, into the -20-degree water, drifting among 20-foot waves just waiting to swallow them. They wash up on Elephant Island. Don't let the name fool you, there are absolutely 0 elephants here. It's just a black, barren rock with 0 life, completely off all shipping routes. Staying here is basically a group death sentence where they'll inevitably eat each other before freezing to death. But Shackleton refuses to be bird food. He makes a crazy, suicidal decision. Pick 5 strongest guys. Use canvas and rusty nails to beef up the tiny lifeboat, the James Caird. Give navigator Frank Worsley an impossible task. Guide them 800 miles using only memory and this crappy device. Target, the whaling station on South Georgia Island. He brings only 4 weeks of food. His cold logic? If we don't find land in 4 weeks, we're dead anyway. More food is just a waste. Splat, boo. April 24th. The tiny walnut shell dives into the storm's core. 14 days in level 18 of hell. Waves smack them non-stop. Seawater turns to sharp ice chunks on hair, beards, and faces. But through Worsley's miraculous, chaotic Marth May 8th, South Georgia's cliffs appear like a mirage. They land, but life gives them an epic bitch slap. They landed on the south side. The rescue station? Yeah, that's on the north side, behind those giant cliffs. No giving up. Shackleton leaves 3 sick men behind and takes the 2 strongest on a suicide trek across a 3,000-foot glacier mountain range no one has ever touched. Bare-handed. No maps. No tents. No sleeping bags. Start at 2:00 a.m. Dawn breaks. The clouds clear. Worsley checks the map and realizes, we went the wrong way. We have to go back. Cursing the universe, they push through the dark night, feet bleeding on rocky shale. 7:00 a.m., standing on the ridge. A sound rips through the air, a steam whistle signaling the work shift, the sound of civilization. First time in 2 years. 3 ragged, skeletal, grease-covered nightmares stumble into Stromness Station. The tough whaling crews back away, thinking devils rose from the ocean. Until Shackleton croaks out. Where is the station manager? No resting. Shackleton instantly borrows a ship to save his men. Ice is too thick. Attempt 1. Fail. Attempt 2. Mega fail. 4 months later, end of August, Shackleton borrows a steel Chilean Navy steamer and Hulk smashes through the thin ice toward Elephant Island. As the thick fog lifts around the deadly island, Shackleton holds his breath, clutching the rail. Terrified he'll only see skeletons on the rocks. But no, hands are waving. 1, 2, 10, all 27 men. Every single one. Standing there, crying, screaming, kazoos buzzing. A leadership achievement so epic it had never happened before in history. 6 years later, 1922, Shackleton, still addicted to exploring, organizes a new trip. Endurance veterans immediately sign up. But immediately, their ship docks back at South Georgia for supplies. Shackleton collapses. Heart attack. Dead instantly at 47. A man who used Iron Will to defeat hunger, ice, and oceans, saving dozens. Dethroned by a random blood clot right where he made history. Whoever is directing this universe is a very dark comedy writer.